For many enterprise applications, a relational database workload like Microsoft SQL Server is commonly used within the architecture, and then you got to figure out how to make it highly available. So that's what we're going to start talking about here. So let's say you've got a virtual machine running in the West US region. You need to have that virtual machine run an application that accesses a SQL database. Now we'll look at more complex architectures that utilize these strategies here in a little bit later on in the course. But for now, just want to focus on the basics. So let's say that the virtual machine here in this case is running like an ASP.NET web application. It talks to a SQL Server database here in the West US region. One of the things we could do is actually set up a alternate version of the application in another region. So in East US, we could build out the virtual machine, install our application. We could set up our SQL Server. And then within SQL Server, we could build a database availability group. We could replicate the database in the primary region to the secondary region. We could keep that secondary copy updated via asynchronous replication, and then we could fail over to it in the event of a disaster. So later on, we'll take a look at some architectures that utilize this concept and also use the Azure Traffic Manager. So users coming into the front end of the application can fail over dynamically in the event of a single region outage or a primary region outage. And so the web application, the front end, as well as the back end SQL database, all that stuff will fail over automatically if you want to configure it that way to keep the application alive. So a couple of things to point out here. You don't have to wire all this up yourself. You could use Azure SQL, so you could do managed SQL databases and really easily replicate those databases. And you don't have to use multiple regions. You could simply do this across 2 different availability zones in an individual region as well. But for now, let's go ahead and move on to the next video, and I'll show you how you can use Azure SQL, the managed SQL Server database system, to build a database and also replicate it to a secondary region on the Azure platform.